Good morning, everyone. Good morning. How are you? Art live streams. So I hope y'all had a chance to do some drawing just for some fun on your own. I'm glad you're here to draw with me. We're going to have some fun today. Got this Rocket Raccoon sketch cover, and I thought, let's draw Rocket Raccoon. It'll give us a chance to draw something different. It's always a fun challenge to draw something maybe we're not used to. And Rocket's a very unique character. He's got a lot of different costumes over the course of his life. Do you know that character's been around since like the 1970s? He debuted in an issue of the Hulk. Don't know the issue number, but he is from the Hulk family of books originally. I didn't discover him until his 1980s miniseries drawn by legendary comic book creator Mike Mignola, a young Mike Mignola who was, I think, just kind of getting started in the biz at that time, did a 4-issue miniseries in the 1980s, and I want to draw that costume. I want to draw that Mike Mignola 1980s era costume for Rocket, just because it's the one I grew up with as a kid, and it was my first experience, discovering Rocket Raccoon, and I just think it's a cool costume. I just like the contrast of the greens against the brown of his fur, so that's what we're going to do. You're welcome to draw along. You don't have to have a sketch cover to draw on. A lot of people ask, where do I get these? Comic book shops. Comic book shops sell these. Marvel and DC and other publishers release these sketch cover variants of their comics. It's an actual comic on the inside. It's the first issue of Rocket Raccoon on the inside, but it's got this special cover that you can draw on. So you can call your local comic shop, see if they have any sketch covers available. A lot of comic shops have eBay stores that you can buy their comics from. And you can look on eBay and see if you can find some blank sketch covers for you to draw on. Some people are selling the sketches they've done on covers on eBay, so don't buy that thinking it's going to be blank. You're going to be buying someone else's art that they have drawn and are now selling. Make sure that it is a completely blank cover in the preview pic of the item for sale. And it's a great way to support your comic shops in this time of COVID-19. Now, a lot of areas in the US are kind of lightening up some of the stay-at-home orders. They're kind of trying to phase back into normal life. It all depends on where you're at. So a lot of comic book shops are now open for at least curbside pickup, or they'll mail them to you. So reach out to your comic shops, support your comic shops, because a lot of small businesses need help through this time with our support with the things that we might need or even want. So if you have it in your budget to pick up some comics, call up your comic shop or swing by their website, see what's available, and yeah. These are really fun to draw on. So enough talking about it. Let's actually get to drawing. So let's go for it. Just clip back into the rig here. Bring that light back around. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope you're all doing well. Okay. So I got the classic. We're doing the classic version here, and I'll show y'all what that looks like. I got reference pulled up here on my iPad so I can get all the costume details right. So he's got like this open collar, this big belt filled with pouches, and these big green gloves and a holster there on his leg. So I just thought this would be a really fun design. This is early Mike Mignola. You might know Mike Mignola's name. He's the guy who created Hellboy. So, but this is what he did for Marvel prior to starting his Hellboy series. So that's the design I'm going to work with, but I'm going to do an all new image. I'm not going to draw this pose here. Mike Mignola already did that. I'm going to draw my pose, but I'm going to put Rocket in that costume. So let's see. Got a kind of a bit of a square space to work in. So I'm just going to use a regular art pencil. It's an HB art pencil. It's really nice, just so I can have that kind of side of the lead to kind of just start to draw in. No comic shops where you live? Well, that's okay. Check on eBay, because then you can have the comics shipped to you. A lot of comic book shops have eBay stores, so if you want to get one of these, look on eBay. That is an option here, if there's not a comic shop near you. I grew up in a town that didn't have a comic shop. I had to buy my comics at a grocery store spinner rack when I first started collecting comics as a kid in the 1980s. So just kind of roughing in a head here. And then we've got the kind of shoulders, the arms. Actually, maybe we put the arms up, or at least one arm up. So this is the breakdown stage where I'm really doing some loose gestural drawing here, trying to get the pose down. So we've got foreshortening going on here. We have the hand that will be holding one of his pistols, his space pistols. And that will go to the forearm, which then goes to the upper arm, then to the shoulder, keeping in mind Rocket's raccoon-like proportions. Pulls to the pectoral muscle there. We'll have his face, maybe he's kind of looking up at whatever he's aiming at. Start to rough in a pistol here. Fun thing about space pistols, ray guns, you can make them any shape that you want. Probably get crazy with some tech here, but roughly this would be the angle that the gun is at in relation to his hand and forearm. Some ears and his fuzzy cheeks. And his neck. Kind of foreshortened, so his body is kind of going back. He's kind of in mid-leap. To the belt area here. Have his other hand. Got to figure out what to do with that other hand. Got to give him those very raccoon-like legs. So you definitely have to reference some raccoon or animal type proportions. He's got those jointed legs, different than the humans. The other foot's kind of going off panel there. Going to bring the tail around this way because we have a lot of real estate over here that we can use for his ringtail. Draw those rings in there. Have his holster, that will go right there. So this is just the breakdown stage. This is just getting everything where it needs to be as we move towards tighter and tighter detail. On the other hand here, we'll have the fist to the forearm, to the upper arm, with the other space pistol right over here. So I got the finger on the trigger, the other three fingers holding the handle of the gun, and the thumb. Okay, so now that I know where all of his body parts are, I can now start to put in the details of his costume and his face and his pistols and fur. We're gonna get a lot of fur texture here. I need to actually beef up his legs. His legs are a little beefier than what I've done here. I need to really get that. We got some foreshortening here. It's coming from the pelvic area forward to his raccoon-like knee, and then the lower leg kicks back down to that long raccoon-like foot. All right, let's start working in some facial features here. So we have the eye line. Then the snout and nose. Rocket's often screaming when he goes into battle. So then we're going to pull that mouth down. So I have the top row of teeth and the bottom row of teeth and then a tongue right in there. as you can see. Get those little raccoon-like fangs. And his teeth are gonna ride up that ridge. He's got that fluffy fur head. And then his fur, different tonal fur, the black around his eyes to the white and then to the brown here. It's just some indications of the direction of the fur. We're going to come in here and we're really going to trick this out with a lot of ink. In that black area there, it's going to be fun and hopefully turn out pretty cool. Okay, now for the costume. Let's see. The belt takes up a lot of real estate, so we're going to work in that belt first with that enormous belt buckle. Then he's got pouches that are of different sizes. And let's see, he's got a long one on this side, long slender one. He's got a little one here that's going to be lifted up because his leg is up. So keeping into account that, he's got his little space shorts and then bare fuzzy legs. He's got that little strap that goes around his thigh to hold his holster on. And then he's got his open collar shirt on here. Just double checking my reference here. He's got kind of like this inner sleeve with the outer sleeve, and then it kind of bunches up around. It's got that little red dot. Maybe a couple of buttons right there. Some wrinkles. And then he's got these big flared out gloves. So from his wrist, we're going to flare these gloves out. Okay, so that gives me some stuff I can work with here. Actually, let me take out his pistol here a little bit more. Kind of really bring home some of those shapes. The little finger guard thing on the pistol. Put a little sight on there. And add some more space age, funky tech to this pistol here. All right, now let's try dropping in some inks. I'm going to be mostly using my microns, the 08, the 01, and the 005. But I might also bring in some zebra brush pen for certain fur textures possibly. And if necessary, I have my Pentel Pocket Brush Pen. So I could and most likely will be using all of these tools at one point or another. So let's start dropping the inks. And if you're drawing along, feel free to draw with whatever tools you have. You don't have to use the same tools I do. So I'm going to start with what's in the foreground, because it helps me kind of keep things where I want them in proportion, because I can always add what's behind. So I start with that finger guard to the pistol, then his finger. Actually, I need to tighten up these fingers here a little bit more. Getting each bend a little more accurate. That thumb, handle. The handle is over that meaty part of the thumb. Then to the glove. So we have his index finger on the trigger. And then goes to the middle finger, ring finger, and then this little raccoon pinky. Onto the handle of his gun and then the meaty part of his palm. And some wrinkles. I like to put wrinkles around the wrist where the glove bunches up and bends at the wrist. I think that's a fun detail. And then working in the little intricacies of his space pistol here. I'm going to use my circle template to get some good drafting going on here with the gun. Get some nice technical lines going. Just have it fall right behind the logo there. Okay, I want to put a nice little curve to the barrel there, so I'm going to use my French curve instead of my triangle. Just nice, kind of subtle little detail. French curve is kind of like a straight edge, but for curves. A little bit of a thicker line on the bottom, just to give it a little more weight. Let's trig out the tip of that barrel. Find a smaller circle. And the inside of the barrel. Boom, three-dimensional. I'm just kind of making up these shapes as I go along here. That's the fun thing about drawing a fantasy pistol here, is that you can just kind of make up whatever you want. It's not a real gun. It's a laser gun from outer space. And wherever Rocket got this gun, the technology is probably completely different, or at least somewhat different than our technology. So we're starting just to get to just add little details. Just keeping in mind the shape of the gun, the direction of where everything is. Okay, we'll put a sight on that gun. I forgot about that. Just kind of noodle in the tech there and gives him something space age to hold. And a lot of fun little details all crinkled up in there. Just beef up some of these contours for the depth. Some more wrinkles at the wrist, and then we're going to flare out this this glove. Comes down here to a point. And the seam, nice little thin, maybe even broken line that runs down the center of it. Some wrinkles there as it pulls around his forearm. So let's see. So next up, let's work some on his face, because his face is a bit overlappy. Get his face done, then I can work on the shoulder and torso area a bit more comfortably. So we're gonna kind of work with the top of his head here. Still using the 0.8 micron. Using some broken lines for a bit more of a fuzzy top to his head. Some fuzzy inside of the ears there. Let's hit this other ear. Flare out this fuzzy side of his head here. as it tapers down to his neck. Opposite direction for the other side, coming down near to his jaw. I'm going to switch to the 0.1 micron, and we're going to work on the snout mouth area first here. So I'm going to start with the nose. Just kind of getting that base shape. And the nostrils in there, and a little black there at the front of the nose. Leaving it open for some color for the color video, probably tomorrow. Don't think we'll have time to do color today. We'll just get the line art done today. And now start to bring in the details here to his open yelling mouth. Fuzzy here on the bottom of his chin. Then this pulls up like that. Work this snoot a little bit more. Furrow that brow. Start to really get some detail on these eyes. He's going to be wide-eyed because he is enraged. So I need to start separating the light color of the whites of his fur, the blacks of his fur, and the browns of his fur. So I'm going to start a transition right here. So it's going to be black all through here, then a white ridge, and then the rest up here will be brown. And I'm keeping in mind the shapes around his eyes, as well as the flow out towards the outer portions of his furry face. I don't put lines I don't do this all over the place. That doesn't give a sense of flow or texture. So I have to be very deliberate. And I might put the flow lines, like the lines are going to go in this direction. In fact, I'll even do that so y'all can see here. So all my lines will kind of flow in that direction to get a nice raccoony mask texture, fuzzy texture. And I want to keep my lines flowing in that way. Now it's going to crinkle up around his eyes because he has eyelids and stuff like that. But then as it flows down to the cheek is where it shows that shape and form of his face. So keep the flow going, and it will look at least hopefully a little more believable than just putting random lines in random directions. Takes a little time, takes a little patience. But it's also kind of fun to see it come to life, like as it starts to take shape. So it really helps create this nice, fuzzy, furry texture on his face. Makes it really fun. It's not just fun to look at, but it's fun to draw. It's actually fun to let these lines come together. Finish out the white. Just like that. So we got the whole, what was that, his right-hand side of his face pretty much done. Get a little bit more up through here, kind of fades into the white there. Now we're going to do the same thing here. Crinkle around the eyes, and then start to fade that over to the outside. It's going to be more concentrated in the center of his face, where it would be darker, and then the black hairs are merging with the white hairs as it fades further and further away. So it angles out and it kind of angles down the further we go down to his face towards his neck. Deepen these shadows just a little bit more. And for the brown section here, just some lines right here through the brow to help indicate that. I've gotten to draw Rocket Raccoon in a story. He was a guest star in a Deadpool miniseries I did called Deadpool Too Soon. It had Rocket and Groot in it. And it was really fun getting to work with Rocket on a story. It was a lot of fun. It's a really fun story. That Deadpool miniseries is in trade paperback now. So if you search out Deadpool Too Soon, 4-issue miniseries now in trade. You can buy the single issues or the trade paperback. I think the trade paperback might even have some of my preliminary art in the back, in the bonus features. I can't remember. I'll have to double check that. Oftentimes they do that for the trades, which I think is a fun extra bonus feature of a trade paperback. So let's see. Let's tighten up these eyeballs here. We have his irises, the color part of his eye, and then the pupil, which is the black part of the eye. Put a little highlight there, and now I can come in with my 0.005 micron. Much thinner point for me to get really tight details in here. Keep them clean. So we can get a nice crazy-eyed rocket. Always be mindful when you're drawing your eyes, make sure the eyes are both looking in the same direction. I know that probably seems like it should go without saying, but sometimes if one's not paying attention, the eyes can go in two different directions, and that looks kind of weird. Especially if that's not the look you were going for. All right, let's tighten up these teeth here for a sec. the tongue. Do a nice fade right there. Okay, I'm going to use that 0.5, so sorry, say 0.5 when I mean 0.005 micron. And that is not it, that is the 0.1. So I'm just drawing the ends of the teeth here. I might not draw every line here at the front of the face, because that might be unnecessary detail. But we have more lines going towards the back teeth because there's more shadow there. That's bottom row of teeth. Just like that. Now for the tongue. Gonna kind of angle it up and put those folds in there. And where the tongue connects to the mouth, we'll put some shadow underneath here. We'll make it really dark inside of his mouth, except for this fade here from where he's yelling. So essentially there's a lot of shadow from the upper part because the light's not getting there. So this all part will be filled in black. And then we have this fade as a little bit of light is going into his mouth, which is illuminating his tongue, but maybe not all the way to the back of his mouth. Okay, now let's see. Let's work on this other gun over here, work on this arm and kind of bring it all together towards his torso. So let me just render out his pistol a little bit more here. Just get some of those base shapes going. And make sure his fingers are bending around the handle appropriately. If you ever need like reference on how a hand goes around holding a gun, just grab a toy pistol. Please use a toy pistol. For safety's sake, please use a toy pistol. And look at how your fingers wrap around the gun. Please do not use a real gun. I cannot stress that enough. Use plastic, unloaded toy pistol. Use a water pistol for safety's sake. Use a water pistol. I hate that has to be said, but I want everyone to be safe. If you have a real gun in the house, do not use it for reference in this sort. Okay, I gotta say that up front. I gotta say that. But then, so holding a toy pistol, you can look at how your hand goes around the hilt or the handle of the gun, and how the fingers wrap around. You can look at that from different angles. And I've done that so many times, I can do it from memory now. I still look at real life. You know, if I have to draw a certain gun in a certain way, I will refer to real life. But in this regard, this position, this pose, I've done it so many times that it's now kind of muscle memory. And I can could just go to it straight from imagination. But I still will refer when necessary. If it's a unique angle or a unique type of gun. I'll also look up photo reference of person holding gun as well. Now keep in mind how the fingers fold around. Right, let's start to work in the actual gun here. So going back to my circle template, choosing the necessary circles to create the barrel of the gun. And this gun could be a little different than the other gun. I just do some straight angles for this barrel. As it kind of tapers forward. Just had to find the right size circle for the circle I want to make. Let's see, for this little side section here, sometimes I'll break up the line, use a broken line so that I can add some extra tech, which I'll do here in a moment. So like right here, I can put like these little connecting housings sort of thing right there. You could put some vents on the gun, things like that. Just whatever your imagination wants, little sensors or handles, coils. So I need that circle template again for the inner part of the barrel. There we go. Let's see, the handle overlaps his palm. Boom. Raccoon hand holding a space pistol. Okay, now I'm gonna flare out this this glove. It's gonna run down. It rests kind of on his forearm. And then it's gonna flare out down here. And that seam is going to run right down the center of it. we're going to start to work on his forearms. Actually, what I want to do is work on his torso here and then kind of move my way out to his forearms. So I'm going to start to work in that collar, which is a lot of wrinkly, crinkly material as it folds from over his, around his shoulders and torso here. Then there's the other side of his collar. It's going to come down and around. Then he's got, kind of move that darker fur texture kind of down here as it fades towards his body. See a bit of his hairy chest there. And then he's got his double layer sleeves. If you just tuned in, I'm drawing the 1980, I think it was 1985, 86, when the Rocket Raccoon miniseries came out, drawn by Hellboy creator Mike Mignola. So I'm drawing this classic era design for Rocket Raccoon, which was the first time I saw Rocket Raccoon as a kid. And just thought he was a cool looking character. I remember when I was, I think I was just out of high school, I went to a comic book convention in Dallas, and Mike Mignola was going to be a guest at that convention. I was so excited to get a chance to meet him and have him sign my comics. And I remember I brought to him Wolverine, Jungle Adventure, Batman, Gotham by Gaslight, and this miniseries, Rocket Raccoon. I think I was one of the few people that brought a Rocket Raccoon, all 4 issues, to get autographed. I remember him kind of looking up at me like, he goes, "You brought this?" It's like, "Yeah, I love this." And he goes, "Oh, well," you know, he's very appreciative and stuff. So, but he was kind of surprised because most people were bringing Cosmic Odyssey, Wolverine Jungle Adventure, and tons of Gotham by Gaslight. I think everybody had Gotham by Gaslight because it was like brand new at the time. But I brought in this deep cut, and I think I might have surprised him a little bit. Because Rocket Raccoon was definitely nowhere near as popular as he is now. So I'm coming here and fleshing out the his arm here. Make sure I have the fur going in the right direction. Then how everything bunches up there. So we see a little bit of his forearm peeking out behind. But because that glove is so big, it covers up most of his forearm. And then we have his upper arm here. And his upper arm is bare, so it's going to be very furry. And I'm going to keep in mind the direction of the arm, as well as maybe any little bit of his pectoral muscle that might be peeking through there as it connects. The underside of his arm there is just going to get darker and darker as we moved towards his little raccoon armpit. So I have this double layer sleeve right there, darker green, then that will be a lighter green. And that will be in the color video tomorrow. We will not have time to do colors today. This is strictly line art day. Okay, let's work on this other side of the arm now. So kind I have the shoulder there. It's kind of, his head's hunkered down a little bit. So we have double layer sleeves. I'm going to grab my pencil here and kind of tighten up that shoulder, upper arm to forearm area. Just remind myself which direction that fur is going to want to pull around. Okay, and then start to pull that hair. Darker on the underside here, because the lights kind of hit it from here. We're assuming the light's from above because of either the sun or the overhead lighting, wherever he is. So I'm going to have darker fur underneath to convey a sense of shadow and depth. All right, now let's see. Let's start to work on this belt and pouches. So I'm going to work on this buckle here. Just like that. The belt is black leather. So we're going to have this part filled in black and that part filled in black, but it's going to be lighter in the center. Then we have his pouches here. Now the pouches I'm imagining to be kind of a leathery sort of pouch. So it's going to kind of bend with his body a little bit. Have the top of his belt, let's see, have his, before we get, his top of the belt kind of meets where his top of his shirt is. So I'm going to keep that in mind. So this part will be his belt. Then we have this other pouch here, the smaller pouch, kind of lifting up because his leg is lifted up. So it's going to rest on top of that thigh. These are the types of things we think about when we're doing our illustration. Especially when drawing comics, it's like, how is every shape affected by other shapes depending on how that character is moving? This is something we think about constantly, 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 constantly. And you do it so much, it becomes second nature. It's almost like we can't not do it. We have to do it. Put that little red dot here on his lapel. Well, not on his lapel, more like at the chest. Just like that. Maybe put some lines as the his shirt is bunching up around him. Let's see, then we have these other pouches over here. A three-dimensional shape here. These are like pouches are kind of like you're drawing boxes, but they can be a bit more bendy and floppy. Depending on the type of pouch they are. Some might be more rigid. Some might be a bit more malleable. And that's the decision you get to make in how you want to portray that element on the costume. Maybe one more pouch going around the back there. All right, we're making some pretty good headway here on Rocket. So now let's work on the lower half. So let me see, gonna grab my pencil again. Get that little strap that goes around his thigh. And then to his holster here. And this one leg needs to be. And then how would that thigh fur angle around? Down to the foot first. So now we can take care of this, was it his right leg? Kind of coming forward a bit. So I'm keeping in mind the shape of the leg and how would this strap bend around that leg? What is the shape of that leg? And how does this strap help convey that? Another thing that we have to think about so much, it becomes second nature. And then with the hair, the fuzzy legs, pulling it around the shape of the thigh. Darker underneath because that's where less light is hitting. Okay, let's see, then he has his holster here. I have to consider the angle of the holster is going to be affected by the angle of his thigh because it's strapped to his thigh. So if the thigh is standing down, the holster would, reflect that. The leg's kind of coming more towards us, so the holster is going to come a bit more towards us. We're going to see the underside or the bottom of the holster far more because of this angle. Let's got some dark shadows right up in here. Okay, and then we have his little raccoon lower leg angling back, and then his raccoony foot coming down. Now this leg is tucked up underneath his thigh, so it's going to be even darker because less light is going to get to it. It's going to create that depth. Working with shadow and depth in this regard. So the leg comes back, but then the width of the foot is a consideration as I bring the leg down, or the foot down. So thigh forward, lower leg back, foot down is the idea here. Then some fur as we fade towards the foot. Okay, and then we have the other side of his leg. Let me just double check my math here. I want to just get that volume. Which direction is that hair going to flow? That fur going to flow? So I'm going to kind of reapproach this lower leg here. Just bring it down a little bit. Then his shorts. So leg's kind of coming forward to us just a little bit, then the lower leg's kicking back, and then the foot is kicking down. So we'll just see the back of his foot right there like that. So we're going to outer texture the top of his thigh here. Some wrinkles here in his shorts. All right, so now I'm going to start to render out the fur of his thigh, kind of starting with that inner thigh muscle. And then the lower part of his thigh. Here is going to have less light. Less light's going to hit there, so I'm going to have more concentrated lines for darker fur. Beefing up the bottom of the pouch lines for to convey the idea of a little bit more of a shadow. So we have the kind of the front of his knee here. Then we have his lower leg. So I'm putting the darker part here on the shin part, because if the light's coming from above, then maybe behind him there, this top part of his lower leg, his calf muscle, if raccoons have calves, would be a little lighter. By comparison. And the back of his foot. Yeah, just go through and beef up some shadows. And we still have that tail, that glorious ring tail to render out here. So it's going to start from back behind him here. So I'm imagining the shape is like it's connecting back here on his backside. It's going to angle up and over, angle down and over here to a point. So I get this nice full raccoon tail shape that's kind of curving in a nice way. And then we'll have rows of rings. So I can kind of indicate which parts are dark as I work in two directions. I'm considering the flow this way, but then also the ring around. So now I can start to feather out his fuzzy tail, furry tail. So I just want to kind of get the main contour of the tail first. And get the bottom here. So there we got his furry raccoon-like tail. And now I can start to put in the darker rings. It's like right there on the tip. We're just gonna ride this all the way around. Maybe concentrate the dark part of the ring a little more heavily here on the bottom part, so it creates kind of a bit of a subtle fade up. And now for this next section, keeping in mind the roundedness of the tail as well as the curve from front to back of the tail. Darken up some of that lower part. All right, so we're almost done here. We have the part where the tail connects. It's our kind of our starter shadow ring. And then the next ring out. Beef up that bottom thigh line so we have a little bit more depth there. Okay, and then just kind of double check everything, see if I need to make any adjustments. I do need to fill in some spots black. Oh yeah, I need to fill in the blacks of his belt buckle here. First I'm going to create this little bit of a fade, much like we had right there. Doing the same here. Yeah, we have to fill in the blacks of his mouth. I knew there was another black area I needed to fill in. So I'm just kind of creating this bit of a black buffer so that the spot I need to fill in has some wiggle room here when I come in with the black brush. Do the same here on his belt buckle. Okay, actually I want to beef up the fur lines here on his chin, just so his chin is a little bit more in the foreground, doesn't get lost. Against his neck or chest. I want to keep in mind the depth of everything. Pardon me. Throat's getting a bit dry from all this talking. Gotta get myself some tea. Drink some green tea. I used to drink Dr. Pepper as my caffeine jolt. That much soda was not good for me. Still love Dr. Pepper. It's a treat now. I only have it as a treat maybe once a month. Now I drink green tea per my wife's suggestion. It's far healthier. Apparently. Gonna put some details here on the handle. Get a little ridge there, a little grip, ridgy grip. Went to school with a guy named Ridgy Grip. He was a foreign exchange student, real nice guy. Good old Ridgy Grip. I wonder what he's up to nowadays. Sorry, gang, that's another one of my dad jokes. I hadn't delivered a dad joke yet here in this live stream, so I figured one was overdue. Just beefing up this foreground hand because it is in the foremost foreground. I think I didn't ink in this one little sight here. I think that might be a fun detail to add to his pistol. Just give him a little more tech. All right, give that a moment to dry, then I'll erase, and then I can fill in the black areas. So I think what I'm going to use is my kneaded art gum eraser. Just go in here and pull out all the graphite lines to where all we have left is the finished ink work. The kneaded art gum eraser can be good for those people that struggle with when they go to erase that the black ink lightens up. The kneaded art gum eraser can kind of help avoid that. It minimizes that pull up of or lightening of the line work. So try one of these, a K-N-E-A-D, kneaded, like when you knead bread, you can knead K-N-E-A-D this, not N-E-E-D, different spelling, a homonym here. kneaded art gum eraser, or just search art gum eraser. It's the same thing. All right, I want to make some adjustments here. Now that I've pulled up those graphite lines, I can see where I need to beef up some of my lines, like this thigh right here. This part of his collar overlapping. I want a little bit more depth, maybe underneath that sleeve. A little bit more underneath the eyes there. Cool. Actually, I want to add a little bit more to the bottom of this glove, now that I think about it. Sometimes it's easier to see what needs a little more punch up after the erasing is done. You can catch little things here and there. It's like, ooh, just a little bit more here, a little bit more there, just to round things out. So now, Pentel Pocket Brush Pen, come in here and fill in the black area, like the inside of his mouth. And here on his belt. Don't have a lot of black to fill in on Rocket here. That's totally okay. I'm excited to do the colors for the live stream tomorrow. So I hope you'll join me here, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon Eastern. I believe that's 4 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, I believe. You can always Google 9 a.m. Pacific time to whatever time zone you're in, and it should tell you exactly what time. Or just subscribe to my channel, and then set your notifications to alert you for when I schedule my next live stream, which I'll do later today. And then you'll know exactly when to tune in. Because the YouTube will remind you. Just adding a little bit more to the brow. There we go. Just bring a few more hairs here into the open part of his ringtail. We'll just kind of put my cover signature on here in the corner for now. Then we'll put the date in there when we finish this, most likely tomorrow is the plan. Okay, there we go. There's Rocket. The line art for Rocket Raccoon on this Rocket Raccoon sketch cover. Pull the camera back a little bit so you can see it in its entirety. There we go. A lot of fun to do. Definitely a different kind of character. And it's so fun to get to draw this classic era costume for him. It's going to be fun when we start to put in all the colors. We'll have the different colors for his fur, and then the different shades of green for his uniform, and then the pistols there. It's going to be a lot of fun, and then we'll see what we'll do for a background. But yeah, there we go. So much fun. Let me flip the camera around and we can wrap up today's live stream. Plug back into the rig. Hey everybody, how's it going? All right. I will be posting a shot of the line art here on my social media. So if you're on the Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, I've got those links listed below here in the video description. So you can just click on that link and go right to my account and then click follow. especially Instagram, Twitter, and Art of Todd Nauck Facebook. I post on those regularly. This image will be on all 3 of those social media pages. Yeah, and then we'll be back here tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon Eastern. I believe that's 4 p.m. Greenwich time if you're international, for the Copic marker colors for this Rocket Raccoon is the plan. So I hope you can join me tomorrow. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, subscribe right now. What are you waiting for? Just hit that subscribe button, then you can tap that bell to set your notifications to alert you for when I schedule my next art live stream and upload new art videos. If you like what you saw, please leave me a thumbs up. Just tap that little thumb button. The thumbs up one is preferred, if you could please. Share my video if you would. If you enjoyed what you saw and you know someone else who might enjoy seeing this, share this to your Twitter, share it to your Facebook page. I appreciate that support. And then lastly, if you're watching this on replay, feel free to leave a comment. Live viewers, thank you so much for hanging out with me, and thank you for posting all of your comments and questions. I'm sorry I wasn't able to address any of those. So much focus was going into the instruction on how to draw a fuzzy character like this that I didn't get a chance to see. I don't know if I got a chance to see any of your comments, so I'm so sorry for that. But hopefully, we can chat more tomorrow. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. I hope you're doing well during this COVID-19 season. Hopefully you're staying safe. Hopefully you're staying well, and hopefully you're keeping those hands thoroughly washed. And yeah, let's stay healthy, let's stay safe, and let's stay kind and gracious to those that we encounter, because we're all going through this together. Being kind and gracious to each other is going to go a long way in dealing with this and getting through this, because we're all struggling, and we all need kindness, and we all need grace and mercy. So try to keep that in mind when you're out and about, and thank those people who are out there on the front lines, either delivering supplies, stocking shelves, ringing us up, delivering food or mail or packages, people who are working in the hospitals and doctors' offices who are at most risk. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Please stay safe. Our thoughts and prayers are with you as you do some very critical work. And all those other people who take care of us, the police, the fire, EMTs, things like that, thank you so much for your service as well. Military, thanks for all that you do. And comic book fans, thank you for hanging out with me. Art fans, thank you for hanging out with me, and support your local comic shop. If you haven't picked up your comics in a while, give them a call. They probably have curbside pickup or delivery, have them mailed to you. My comic shop, they mailed my latest batch of comics to me that I hadn't picked up in March. I called them up, I said, how many comics do I have? I need to get those. They go, you have about a dozen. They, rung me up. And then 2 days later, they showed up in the mail, and it's like, sweet, I got a dozen new comics to read. So reach out to your local comic shop, because even if new comics haven't been shipping lately, they are on the way. I think coming in June. But whatever is still in your pull box, or maybe something new you've discovered and you want to pick up, some classic trade paperback. You can order that and get that, and it helps keep your comic shop alive, helps keep this industry going through this really tough time. Support your small businesses and restaurants wherever you can. Gang, thanks so much for hanging out. I will see you tomorrow morning. Please stay safe. Please stay well. I'm Todd Nauck. Keep on drawing. Keep having fun. See you soon. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.